Okay, welcome into the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, episode 8. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, the Bucks went 1-2 this week with losses against Atlanta and Philadelphia, but a win on Wednesday night against Cleveland. So let's get right into it.
Mhm.
This is so the first game played last Monday against Atlanta, lost 121 to 106. Bucks have been dominated by Atlanta in the last two meetings. Seemingly every other game we're playing Atlanta.
Mhm.
Let's just get into it kind of from what I saw. So first of all, this was the first game where Drew Holiday didn't play
Yes.
with an ankle sprain, and everybody else kind of had to pick up the slack. So what were your thoughts about what you saw against the Hawks on Monday night?
It looked a lot similar from the last time they played the Hawks, just a few days prior. Also being a loss, but I believe that was an away game. A lot of it was just a lack of shooting from a lot of these guys, with Bobby going 0 for 5 from 3, Brook going 0 for 4 from 3, Javon 0 for 3 for 3, Giannis 0 for 3. So it was a lot of just shooting, and they just weren't falling for them. That wasn't a horrible game. They still scored 106. Obviously, they lost by was that 15? It was the first half that I think they were kind of down in defensive wise and offensive wise. So it wasn't a horrible game, but obviously I think some defense lacked near the end of the game that just led to a Hawks push. It was close for most of the game, but late game Hawks were able to just kind of take it away with like 7 minutes left or so in the fourth.
Yeah, kind of from what I saw, it didn't look like. And now look, I'm gonna be honest here. So I had to record my other podcast on Monday night, so I couldn't like exactly watch too much of the game.
You didn't miss
Uh,
much.
what I didn't,
You
I
didn't
didn't,
miss
I
much.
didn't miss much because when I was done recording that podcast, I was like, oh boy. So, but kind of looking back at the stats, Hawks just have a real the word that I keep coming back to with Atlanta is efficiency.
hmm
Only 9 turnovers, all 5 starters scoring double figures. And I don't know, they've seen that they saw the Bucks once, Bucks blew them out, and so now they're like, okay, so now we know what these guys are about. The Bucks were for Atlanta at least were easier to guard when you don't have Drew Holiday, you
hmm
don't have Chris Middleton, you just don't have those playmakers. So really, it makes it easier for the Hawks to guard him because they're like, all right, so now we're just going to zero in on Giannis, and we're going to
hmm
let the other guys beat me. Oh, Giannis still had 27 points, but it was on 8 of 20 shooting.
Yes.
So it wasn't an efficient game from Giannis. And basically, their whole strategy now is we're going to make Giannis shoot free throws. And seemingly this year, and we'll get into it later, is that
hmm
Giannis's poor free throw shooting, and I get it, he works on it. Every NBA player, I'm sure, works on it. But it's kind of getting magnified because teams are now like, we're going to hack Giannis. We're going to make him go to the line. And he's not going to beat us with a dominant performance. And look, like I said, Atlanta has has great players, long guys. They have John Collins, Okongwu, Capella that can guard him, and they're not afraid of like going up against Giannis.
Yeah, and I felt like with Giannis, obviously we'll talk about the free throws later, but this week for free throws has just been off, and it's like Giannis comes in spurts when it comes to like free throw shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he shot 18, but he missed 9 of them. And obviously, you're not going to go 100% every single game.
Mm-hmm.
But hypothetically, you add like 5 more to that. That's 5 more points.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, they let him shoot the most and he missed the most. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, percentage wise, 8 for 21 doesn't look as good. Obviously, still have 27 points, but 11 of them were on free throws. So it's still one of those things where they got him to shoot a lot, which is exactly what they wanted him to do. And no one else was really shooting as much as him,
Mm-hmm.
which just, again, they were able to stop him whenever they needed him to.
And I think this part also needs to be brought up is that Wesley Matthews and Grayson Allen did have to leave the game early.
Mm-hmm.
Grayson Allen, I believe it was an ankle injury. I don't think it was a sprain. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was an ankle injury. And Wesley Matthews played only like 10 to 12 minutes. He had a hamstring injury. Obviously, he's had to miss the last couple of games because of that. So at that point, the Bucks were just shorthanded, didn't have a lot of shooting. So it kind of made for an easy Atlanta win.
Yeah, and it's hard with the injuries right now just because they come and they go, but it's only a few games, but a few games it's you have some guys back and then you lose some other guys, and it's been hard, but they've kind of been able to make it work. Even in a loss, sometimes they still look decent without some of these guys. But yeah, it's tough seeing your only shooters go out most of the games.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, like the lack of playmakers, Milwaukee went 6 of 29 from three.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to win any game in the NBA when you shoot that poorly from three.
Yeah, and it was only three guys:
It,
Marjan, Serge, and Nora, the guys who aren't really our top three. Are 3-point shooters.
when you have Serge Ibaka being one of your top 3-point shooters that night, that's not going to be a good night.
Yeah, he's actually been doing well on 3-point, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not when you have Grayson, Wesley, Javon, even now Brooke. Yeah, it was not a good game. 20%, I think.
But there is one positive takeaway from the night. Marjan Beauchamp continues to blossom. 20
Yep.
points, 7-9 shooting, 8 rebounds. So, and look, he's a rookie. He's going to have, nights where he figures it out. Then he's going to have like nights where he's going to be off.
Yep.
It's kind of the highs and lows of being a rookie in the NBA. Not every game is going to be good, but he's been really confident, like especially in the starting role.
Yeah, which is a huge role to just be put in right away as a rookie and in the beginning of the season. So he obviously has some games where he's better than others, but from what he's put with those numbers, I think, or minutes, hasn't looked too bad in my opinion.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. And look, it was weird. It was like looking at the numbers, I couldn't really pinpoint to Atlanta did this better than us. I was looking at all the stats looked even to me.
Yeah, they shot 7 for 20 on three, so they shot 9 less, but only made one more. They were a little better on free throws, but it seemed pretty even. It was just a couple more shots went in for them, which led to a win.
I guess if you want to go the shooting percentage, because I believe they shot 47%, we shot 41. I guess
Yep.
if you want to consider that was the reason why they killed us, like fine, but that game was I just think that Atlanta was more offensively efficient, more so than Milwaukee.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, that's gonna win them games. They shot 10 more shots, but made 10 more. So statistically, it makes sense for them to kind of have that little over 10 plus win. But yeah, it's just one of those times where it's you win some, you lose some, and that was just one of the games where they couldn't quite hold on to them as much. 3-point wise, it would have been a lot different if you could make a couple more, but oh well, they're the Hawk Killers. I think the Hawks this year are the Raptors in the past couple years. I think it's just going to be that tricky team.
I was about to ask you that. Are the Hawks like the Raptors? Like where we're gonna have like a ton of difficulties against the Hawks because because we haven't seen Toronto yet.
Nope, we won't for a while either, which is with that awesome scheduling. But it's one of those things where it's the Hawks are not the 14, 15 or 14, 15 seed. They're not like at the bottom, but they're not like the 1 or 2 seed.
Mm-mm.
They don't have a couple superstars. They have Trae Young, they have DeJounte Murray. But yeah, otherwise they just got some pretty solid role players who I think understand what they need to do against the Bucks and some of these other top teams. And it's something where you can't hate on it because the Bucks at one point were that team also when they were beating the Warriors when no one else was and some of those top guys.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, I don't really like the Hawks, but I respect them.
Yeah, because I think you just brought up Toronto. Like, I just think Atlanta matches up really well with Milwaukee, and maybe that's just me reading because like maybe we've struggled with Milwaukee because we haven't had Chris Middleton
Mhm.
or Connaughton or some of those bench guys. Um, but I don't know. Even when we played them in the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years ago, like that was still one of those teams where it was a good series. Milwaukee, I think, just had a better team, but
Yep.
like Atlanta was by no means a pushover in that series.
Yeah, they took the first game, so they were able to hold off. But yeah, they got some good guys, and their future in the playoffs, I think, will be high. I don't know how far they'll go in the next coming years. I wouldn't say the last or 2021 was a fluke, but they got a solid team, and they're
Yeah,
getting better.
yeah. So we'll see. I believe we're going to play Atlanta one more time
Yep.
in the season series. So thank goodness for that. Just get the Hawks out of the way early.
Yep.
So
Shoo them away in the first, 20 games.
so all right. Next game up. This is the one win Milwaukee had this week. It was against Cleveland. Um, Really a dominating third quarter performance. Evan outscored Cleveland 34-18. What do you make of Milwaukee's performance against Cleveland on Wednesday night?
What I don't get is being able to beat the Cavaliers. They're 8-6. They start off really hot, but I don't get how they can beat some of these more better overall teams, but they can't beat some of these other teams where I sometimes I don't get how like that balances out, and like I'm fine with that because I would expect the Bucks to probably play the Cavs further out in the playoffs than maybe the Hawks. Um, but Brooke Lopez, holy, he had 7 3-pointers that game, 29. He only missed 3 shots, and one of them was I think like the first shot of the game, where a little like fake alley oop that he missed, and then 2 other threes. But he looks so good. He looks better after the back surgery. Um, and it's really surprising at how consistent he is with his shooting. Obviously, he hasn't been scoring 29 consistently every game or 25 and up, but when he gets the ball and he's shooting, he seems to be comfortable with his shots. A lot of those threes that he took were pretty far out, like further than what he usually does, and it's good to see, and it's relaxing to see that we can rely on him again because we missed him for practically the entire season last year.
We have, and Drew Holiday again missed his second straight
Mhm.
game. So again, you needed someone else other than Giannis to pick up the offensive slack. Brooke Lopez was able to do that. Cleveland doesn't have. I think they have a solid defensive team, but I don't think Jared Allen was playing in that game.
No, he did not.
So, and Evan Mobley, I don't think at this point he's a good defender. I think that was one of the knocks on him is I don't think he's a good defender. Um, I could kind of understand why they could beat Cleveland because I think Cleveland is what we like to call top heavy.
Mhm.
So, okay, so you got Darius Garland, you got Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen's pretty good, Evan Mobley, he's a good young star, and I guess Kevin Love coming off the bench. I mean, if you
Yep.
want to consider him still a great player,
Yeah,
but
he has very on and off games, it seems like.
he does. And who else from Cleveland can you name? Like Lamar Stevens.
They have Robin Lopez.
They have Robin Lopez.
I forgot that he went to them. I knew that, but then I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, he signed with them. He got some minutes, not a lot.
Hmm.
But yeah, otherwise they have just Chetty Osman. They have Mamadi from the Bucks a few years ago. I liked him. But yeah, a lot of just not as solid role players as you would kind of put against the Bucks. So
Mm-mm.
the big thing was Donovan Mitchell started really hot. I think he had 16 in the first quarter, but only ended with 23. So I think being able to hold him off was solid for them just because he's their main scorer. So if you can hold him, then hopefully everything else can kind of balance out.
Yeah, and look, Cleveland Stars, like kind of looking through the stats, they're the only ones who really had solid games. Obviously with Mitchell and Garland and Mobley, I guess. I
Mhm.
guess those are the only guys who had really decent games. But other than that, they got next to nothing from their bench. And that's
Yeah, and
kind of
they
why the Bucks won. It's kind of why the Bucks were able to hold off Cleveland because when you're starting and going off and like you're not getting any scoring for your bench, it's kind of easy to win.
Yeah, and they really didn't play a lot of their bench guys a lot. Kevin Love and Isaac Okoro played 25 minutes, and then Kevin Love played 20. Otherwise, everyone else played less than 15. So a lot of like heavier minutes for two guys who didn't produce a lot, only 9 points. But yeah, their bench, yeah, is not as strong as their starters. So it's one of those things where if their starters aren't scoring 30 plus points, then it's a little stagnant of who needs to score then because 23, 23, and 20 from their starters. So
Yeah.
pretty solid though for them defensive wise.
Evan, I had to say though, one of our more criticized players on the podcast is off the list for now.
He is.
Jordan Norris scored 21 points, 6 of 10 shooting, and 5 of 9 from 3. Uh, so here's the thing. I think Jordan Norris is going to have one of those. That's the type of player he's going to be, where sometimes he's going to have good nights and sometimes he's going to have bad nights. He's kind of. I don't like to make this comparison. He reminds me a little bit of J.R. Smith, where he gets the ball, he's shooting it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what the shot clock is, what the situation is. He's chucking. So, so Jordan Nora had a good night. Do you think he's like finally found his groove just a little bit?
I would say he's on the rise. I think obviously this was his best game of the season. We could all agree on that. And then even going into the game for tomorrow, he still had some more shots too. So I can kind of see a come up for him again. I don't think he's just going to have that one good game, but I think the overall season for him, he's going to have just scattered amount of games where he does well. I hope he continues to kind of like blossom from that because again, this is his third year in the league and he should be pretty dominant in his role player position on the team. But I'm hoping. I don't know if it will for sure happen. He's not going to score 21 points every night, but if he can hit 2 to 3 threes, I would say that is a very comfortable position that he should be in right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of those guys. I know I said last week on the pod that I don't think he's going to find regular rotation minutes. I think he will. So like once Pat Conte comes back, once Ingles comes back, guys like that. I think if you could slot him in for maybe, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes a night.
Yep, that's what I was looking for. 15, 10, 15 at the lowest, and then up from there. But yeah, once you get those other shooters back, then it's a lot different wise for him minute wise. He's not going to be getting 30 minutes like he did on Wednesday. Unless he's doing really well like that, then maybe.
I don't know if I can expect that from him because if he's not if he's not shooting well,
then
he's not going to be good. Well, here's the thing: if he's not playing defense, he's not shooting well, then he's not going to be on the floor.
Yep.
Because Bud likes guys who can do two of the same great things. If you can play defense and you can rebound and you can shoot, you're going to be on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
If you could just shoot, if you're only good at one good thing, like you're not going to be on the floor. Like Bud preaches defense. So I mean, we'll see what happens with Jordan Nora. Finally he had his first good game of the season.
Mm-hmm. He looked excited. He had that alley-oop from George Hill. He looked like he was having fun that game. Obviously, you can see sometimes where you're frustrated with yourself when you're not hitting the shots you should be, but he shot well, and I'm hoping it turns out to be something positive going from there where when the other shooters come back that he can still find a smaller role in there. But I was excited because it was nice to see someone else kind of step up in this kind of turnaround game where when Giannis is not shooting well and you have Brooke and Nwora being your top scorers it's always a fun game to see a win where you can get those other guys to shoot 20 or scored 20 plus points.
The other stat that kind of stood out to me was the 13 offensive rebounds
Mm-hmm.
for Milwaukee. What do you kind of make of that?
They have done a lot better protecting the paint. A lot of these are coming from bigger guys. Marjan was, I think, had the most. He had 4, being more of a guard role. But I think where their positioning is, they've just been able to read the ball a lot better coming off the rim, especially knowing who's shooting it. But it's just helpful to just get that extra possession. It sucks that when they get it and they miss it, like when it's just a catch and then put it right back up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just like an extra possession that the Cavs lose, or whoever the team they're playing is. They just lose an extra possession where they could hypothetically score. But they've been able to read the plays a lot better and know, again, where the ball's going to go. If they miss it, obviously they're not going to miss every shot, but knowing that if a team or a player were to miss it, they know where they're going and they understand what they're doing once they get the ball, whether it's just going right back up or just passing it right back out.
Yeah, and we talked about this even before the season, is that has been a point of emphasis this season for Milwaukee. Offensive rebounding, in particular from the guard position. So it's not just Giannis and Brook, it's everyone. Everyone's been doing a great job crashing the boards. And I think now Bud has the personnel to where guards are more willing to do that. With Javon Carter and Grayson Allen, who are more aggressive players, I think it kind of makes it easiest for the other guys, such as like Giannis, and when he comes back, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, to get extra possessions. So yeah, we'll have to see if obviously that continues to be a point of emphasis for Milwaukee this season.
But yeah, I think overall Bobby has been the best out of the entire team, offensive rebound wise. I think a lot of his double doubles are coming from like 3 or 4 offensive rebounds, or he'll have some where he gets a lot more than defensive, but he's looks a lot better. And I think the offensive rebounding is a huge plus that they didn't have as much last year than they did this year. And I think just overall it's going to help them out in the long run, just kind of getting some extra points where they could be down, and just having those extra possessions could help them out a lot.
Yep. Oh, and one more thing from the Cleveland game. AJ Green got some minutes.
I was excited because the game before, I was talking with my dad and my brother about why don't they just use him, but I forgot he broke his nose and he was out for a little bit. But I feel like, especially with their 3-point shooting, it's one of those things where it's why not just try him? Like, he's a shooter. In the preseason, he actually shot pretty well. In the Herd game last night, he had 6 threes. So it's like one of those things where it's, if everything else is failing shooting wise, or they're all hurt, why don't you just give him a try and just see what happens? And then all of a sudden he was out on the floor. He made one of his threes, but 2 of his threes should have gone in. It was one of those where it was like halfway through and then it like spins right back out, which sucks. But he got the shots off that he needed. He missed 3 of his 4 shots, but 2 of them should have gone in or were really good shots overall. But I was glad to see him get some minutes. Had some rebounds, had an offensive rebound. So a steal, pretty solid for his 15 minutes. And I was just excited to see him out there.
Yeah, he's a sniper. He kind of reminds me when when Milwaukee had Kyle Korver.
Mm-hmm.
During the 2019-2020 season. I'm assuming they wouldn't put him in because he doesn't seem like a good defender. I'm not, I'm not good at reading that kind of stuff, so I don't know. It could be he's probably not a good defender, or Milwaukee just has too many players to play.
Yeah,
and he's been the last guy on the bench. So I mean, I think guys like Sandro and Thanasis, I feel like I'm missing someone, would have priority to get playing time over him. I think that could be one of the reasons.
Yeah, and
it's kind of weird though, because like Thanasis and Sandra, I don't believe, played against Cleveland.
They played Thanasis only played 2 minutes. Sandro had 8 minutes. And I think it's frustrating for Sandro because seeing AJ Green go into the game and then he's just kind of sitting there. And it's like one of those things where it's just play like he came in and he scored right away. I think he only took 3 shots, and the second shot he made just 2 or couple possessions right after he came in. So it's one of those things where it's just try him out if no one else is out there. Shooting wise, or again, their starters played super heavy minutes, and then Nwora played honestly more than Marjan, who started. But it was like just try it out, kind of see. But yeah, it kind of just I would assume frustrating just to see AJ Green go out there and then you're still just chilling on the bench where confident wise or just frustration wise, it sucks to see the other guys go out there and you're just still hanging out.
Yeah, and I didn't know this, is that AJ Green actually played in a game this year. I was writing down my notes. I thought this was the first time he's played. Apparently, this is the game you went to. He played against Houston.
Yeah, for like 2 minutes. He didn't get a shot up. So this basket he had tonight was his first career points. But yeah, he played 2 minutes when Marjan came in for his debut, and he scored against the Rockets. But yeah, I hadn't seen him since.
Yeah, he's been out obviously with a nasal fracture. So we'll see if AJ Green. Well, he's a two-way guy, so we'll see if he can get like a few more minutes between obviously the Herd and Milwaukee. I'm if I had to guess, I'd say he's probably going to be on the Herd a little more, only because of the fact that he can get a little more playing time. He can start, and Milwaukee is a really deep team, so it's going to be hard for guys like that to kind of find their role, just being the last guy on the bench, especially.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they can have. Obviously, no one knows who AJ Green is unless you really know the Bucks. But it's like one of those things where you can still feel comfortable putting those guys in and not expect just turnover and turnover and turnover. Where it's you have these lower role players, but they're still can still be effective when they come out and play.
Yep. All right, ever move on to the next game. Played at Philadelphia.
I'm mourning still.
110 to 102. So a few differences from the first game of the season. So first of all, Philly didn't have James Harden.
Nope.
He's obviously going to miss.
I think they said he was out a month.
About a month with a foot injury.
Yep.
And we'll get to him in a little bit. Tyrese Maxey, he scored, it's kind of ridiculous, 24 points in 21 minutes before leaving with a foot injury. But really, yesterday's game was the dominance of Joel Embiid.
Yes.
32 points, 12 of 26 shooting. Milwaukee seemingly had no answer for him, even with Brook Lopez, who I thought was the Embiid stopper. Could not stop Joel Embiid that game. What do you make of, I guess, Joel Embiid's performance and Milwaukee's performance as a whole?
I would say the biggest thing for Embiid, I remember I think it was the second or the game, the day after, or not the day, when we recorded after the 76ers game. I remember saying about him only being like the spot up shooter, like trying to like push him back a little bit to shoot from like the free throw line and the elbow, which he did a lot. But Brook, I think, sagged too much off where they gave him that open shot a few too many times. I would say maybe like 4 or 5 of his shots just came from the free throw line, jump shot, not free throws, which was kind of hard to see because they were able to really hold him off in the paint. I don't think he got a lot of shots off in the paint, or if he did, that was one of the times where Giannis and Brook blocked him. But it was just hard because they were holding him. He started off hot, then they held him for a little bit, but then they just were giving him too much space for him to get a shot off. He's a tall guy. He's got the lanky shot, but they gave him too much where he was still able to put it up. And again, not a horrible player at all. Obviously someone who I feel like should have an MVP by now. But yeah, it was just one of those things where they gave him too much space or they didn't box him out as much where he was just able to kind of pick it up near the end and just take over as he usually does. He's not a horrible player whatsoever, but sometimes when you can hold him off, he might not be as dominant as he is expected to be or should be. Same goes for Giannis and a lot of other superstars.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we could have expected a performance like this from Joel Embiid after the first meeting, where he didn't have a great performance against Milwaukee. Brook Lopez was able to shut him down that first meeting. The second meeting, a little more aggressive, took wide open shots. And I feel like that's what Philly got all game, wide open shots, especially from Tyrese Maxey. I'm still astounded the fact that he scored 24 points in 21 minutes. Had no answer for him. Or Embiid. You can't give Joel Embiid those types of shots because he's going to make them every single time. But it's so weird because I brought this up about Joel Embiid is sometimes he doesn't know how dominant he is.
Yes, and yeah, he just sometimes he's like not really confident wise, but I think he's way better than he like thinks that he is. And it was just totally true. I don't like Philly. I don't like Philly teams, but he is one of those guys where he needs to like understand that he is a top 10 player in the league and he is very capable of doing this and can honestly do a lot better than some games that he has. Obviously coming off of that 59-point, almost quadruple double the other night from him, but he's a lot better than I think he puts himself in that position.
He does, but I think the real catalyst for Milwaukee's 110 to 102 loss was Giannis shooting 4-15 from the line. Like Atlanta, Philadelphia decided to employ the hacky Giannis strategy.
And did it work?
It worked. Airballed a couple free throws.
Yep.
Short-armed a couple free throws. Philly fans got chicken wings after the game because he missed 2 free throws in like the third quarter, second quarter, whatever. So what do you make of Giannis's free throw shooting performance?
The big thing is the I wouldn't say it's confidence level. At this point, it's all mental. That's like all sports is mental. When you're in a slump, it's shoot, like I really have to do well, and then it keeps getting worse, whether that's hitting in baseball or shooting in basketball. But I think he knew that he kept missing, and usually when that happens, he like knows how to like fix it. Like in the beginning of the game, he started off so hot and like he looked like he was going to score 50 points from like his facial expressions. But then he just kept shooting or getting to the paint, fouled, and then it would just seem like miss after miss after miss after miss. And then obviously knowing how he's going to react to it, they just kept fouling him and it worked to their well-being. I would say outside of the free throws, and I also noticed this in the Cavs game as well, is the last 2 or 3 games, the Bucks seem to play a lot better when Giannis was not playing. And in the Cavs game, I think the Bucks went on an 11-0 run really quick, and then they brought Giannis back in, and then all of that disappeared, and then the Cavs caught right back up and then took a lead again. So I feel like Giannis, obviously he shot 45%. He still had 25 points, but it's a lot of rushing and just trying to like take over. And when he tries to take over, sometimes it works, but most times it looks sloppy, it looks bad, and it doesn't look like him as a player. And it's messing up, I think, a lot of just like not the team chemistry, but the overall playing of, I guess, like how they're playing on the court is just showing up with how he's playing, which sets the tone of how everyone else is going to play. And I feel like he just looks kind of lost right now.
Do you think that's a product of him? Because he's talked about this. Do you think that's a product of him not trusting his other teammates? Because early on in his career, I guess more specifically when you get in the series against Toronto, when he tried to take on 4 guys in the lane, and he wasn't passing the ball out. So do you think now that's like he's kind of reverting back to how he was, I guess 6 or 7 years into his career, where he's not trusting the other guys other than like Chris Middleton?
Hmm. I would say like a little half and half. Because looking at the stats, I forgot that Bobby only missed 4 shots. I knew he had um, the 21 points, but he was scoring. Brook was kind of scoring, not as much. But a lot of the guys that he was paired up with on the court seemed to be scoring, or even if they weren't scoring as much, were still able to like find open shots for someone else. But I felt like he kept getting the ball and he would either shoot the three, which he made his first three, then miss all the other ones, um, or would just attack and then not make the continuation shot. I think that's a huge hitter for Giannis overall is whenever he gets fouled and he goes for the and one, he misses like every single one because he tries to like float it off or he'll like throw it. There are some where it's like, dude, just dunk it. Because a
Hmm.
lot of them he's like so close and he just like he looks lost when he's like going to the paint to when he's fouled, I should say not every single time, but he's fouled and he always just like throws it up and tries to make a circus shot when all it is he's getting hit in the chest and he just goes up and he should make it 9 out of 10 times. So I feel like confidence wise, when he misses that shot, then it continues over with his free throw. And it's frustrating because he can make so many more shots or score so many more points if he could just figure out how to just lay the ball up when he's going for a continuation.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like Giannis can be too confident.
Yeah.
There was a couple of moments in the 76ers game yesterday where he's shooting a three with like 18 seconds left on the shot clock. I'm
I
like,
know.
what are you like? Even the announcers were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it was so early in the possession, and he gunned up a three. I'm like, that can't be our offense. Okay. I like Giannis. Okay. I like the fact that he works on all aspects of his game,
But
but
now's
I'm
not the
not
time to work
comfortable
on that.
but I'm not comfortable with him like gunning up a three with like 18 seconds left,
And you're down.
and we were down. And that was the thing is, I'm more comfortable if the Bucks are up by like 5 or 10, because I'm like,
Hmm.
all right, whatever. He's gonna take those shots. I don't want him gunning up a three with 18 seconds left, because that can't be our offense. And
No.
I understand that Giannis feels like he has to carry the offensive load, but no, like I don't want him. And again, Giannis's 3-point shooting percentage, it is what it is. It is what it's always going to be. It's not going to be like in the 40% range. I can confidently say that he's been in the league 10 years. It's never been close to 40%. And I get he's confident. I understand that, but like his free throw shooting and him taking threes just so early in the shot clock, that's not a good offensive strategy.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like he made his first one, so then when he makes his first one, he
Oh,
thinks he can make the next 100 shots. And I think it's the what he should think is that when he shoots and let's say he makes his first one of two, whether it's the first one or the second one, and he misses maybe the next two, that's just the all right, stop shooting now. Like that's not where you're at tonight because it's going to lose them games or possessions. And his mentality is I feel like when he makes the first one or two, he needs to just keep shooting them as a heat check and then he misses them, he airballs them, it looks bad and it's at that point where it's all right, find something new to do because that's obviously not working.
uh, but the one positive was, you mentioned Bobby Portis scored 21 points. Bobby Portis is one of those guys who, now obviously Milwaukee fans won't talk about it because maybe they don't notice, or maybe they don't notice when he has a tough stretch. But Bobby Portis, a couple games there, he had like a really tough stretch of just not playing
Hmm.
well.
Yep, not shooting well, not really getting rebounds because I think he's one of the top leaders in double doubles. I know he
Mhm.
has the most on the team because he's averaging that pretty consistently. Um, But yeah, it was one of those things where he was not shooting well from the three, whether it was because he does a little better 3-point shooting when he's a little more contested. But yeah, it was one of those stretches where he wasn't doing well, but he kept shooting too, and he kept going and going to try to like finally hit that shot. But some of those games where it's like if you know you're missing 5, 6, 7, or 8 shots, maybe just figure out a different way to get those guys who are scoring a chance. You'll eventually get your shot back. Hasn't disappeared. It's not Space Jam. It's not gone. But I think some of those times where if you're missing a handful of those shots, find a new way to help your other team score and work a different type of offense with you not having to be the main scorer.
Yeah, and I think that's why Bobby Portis was struggling because I think now he's kind of playing a new role too. Because obviously, as we've mentioned a lot of times on this podcast, Pat Connaughton hasn't played yet. Middleton hasn't played yet. Guys like that. So Bobby Portis is asking Bobby Portis to be like the main scorer. It's a tall task to ask because he's never had to play that role before.
Yep.
Because
And
he's always had the other guys behind him, and he's had like big games because people like they just don't really notice him. Like they don't really pay attention to him like offensively. We know he's a good offensive player, but it's like when you have so many weapons offensively, like Milwaukee does. Some of those other guys can get like I guess kind of like it opens it up for the other guys to have massive games, and Bobby Portis was the product of that.
Yeah, and even those games where he wasn't scoring, he was still able to get some rebounds, which led like the offensive rebounds. He had four of his 11 were offensive, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually offensive rebounds are obviously harder to get than defensive rebounds. But he's just able to again time them more to help his team out. And I'm just kind of curious as to how well obviously he's still going to be well when everyone else comes back, but how different he might have to adjust role wise if he's not going to be in some of the spots that he's in right now. But I don't see him like progressing like a crazy amount, or he's not going to like get worse, I should say. But just kind of that role that he's in now has been really helpful, not only for him and his confidence level, but just the overall team chemistry.
Yeah, and and I guess the other positive for the night. So Milwaukee did force 18 turnovers against Philly, and which included 8 steals. I guess that's like a small sliver that our defense wasn't as bad. Yeah, and again, that was one of those weird games where you force 18 turnovers. You would think that it would be I guess, walk in the park win because Milwaukee only turned the ball over 13 times. So,
I think this game they lost because of their free throws.
Yeah.
They shot 8 for 21, which is horrendous. And obviously, again, you're not going to make 100% every single time. But I think they would have been capable of making 18 of 21 where they could add 10 more points. I wouldn't say they should have only made 3 more. I truly like some of those guys who were missing them weren't guys who usually miss free throws. Like Brooke missed 1, George missed 1, and then Giannis just missed every other one. Those are the 1, 2. Yeah, those are the only 3 guys who shot free throws. So if you give Brooke and George their 1 more and Giannis a couple more, I feel like they could have just won based off of those missed free throws, which sucks because there's going to happen, but can't really say that was the worst, like their kind of lead away. But it was, again, when you lose by less than 10 points and you miss more than 10 free throws, it's one of the main reasons as to why you didn't win that game. You could put it all on other things too, but that was something that was definitely a main hitter for them.
Agree with you 1,000%. Shooting 8 of 21 from the line, that will not win you many games in the NBA. It just won't. Poor free throw shooting is a huge detriment. And when you shoot that poor from the line, like especially on national television. That gets
In
more
Philly.
in Philly, which has a rabid fan base. And fans are very passionate there, but 8-21, yeesh. Not good. Not good. I guess there was one more positive. Drew Holiday came off the bench, first game back, 10
Yeah.
points, 5 of
I
12
didn't
shooting.
Yeah, I didn't know he was going to play. I didn't read anything. Same for Pat. Obviously, Pat didn't play, but yeah, it was kind of nice to see him play in the second quarter. He was just kind of out there. He played 23 minutes, had a couple shots, didn't make a three. That's all right. He'll get there. But yeah, it was just kind of nice to have him back on the court, playmaking wise, and just slowly getting back into the game. But yeah, it was nice to see him back
A
after
little
a
rusty. I
few
mean,
games.
like he went 0-4 from 3. Him and Giannis both had 5 turnovers. So, got to knock the rust off a little bit. Missed the past couple of games. I'm surprised he came back that quickly because, I don't even know what it was. An ankle sprain?
Yeah, ankle.
Yeah, that's
Same to what Tyrese did in the second quarter.
I'm sorry. I keep bringing up Tyrese Maxey, but I'm sorry. 24 points in 21 minutes. Utterly, it always astounds me when you have more points than like more minutes or something like that. Where Giannis had like a 40 piece against the Rockets, like 28 minutes. That always astounds me. But yeah, for Philly, it sucked that Tyrese Maxey went out because, but I guess that's where we could kind of see the tea leaves where Milwaukee probably wasn't going to beat Philly because they couldn't. It just didn't matter who was on the floor that night because Tobias Harris didn't play due to a hip injury. But I just felt like that was one of those games where it didn't matter because Philly was just going to figure it out offensively.
Yes. One more really quick thing on this game. I totally forgot about it now that it's like you mentioned hip, and that made me think of Giannis getting hit by Embiid for that flagrant.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, are you saying that that's a flagrant too? I heard a lot of people kind of going 50-50 on it where it was like nowhere because it's what they're looking for is like, did he play the ball? And he did not, like at all. Like Giannis had the ball, like I think in his left hand, and then he gets hit right here and like more of that like shoulder. And some people in the comments, not just on like the Bucks accounts, obviously most Bucks would say, yes, it should have been flagrant too, but I saw some people talking about it. So it was like one of those things where it's like, could that have really shifted the game? Did they miss that more flagrant 2 spot? Because he took a shot, and you never see Giannis take a seat like that. He'll usually like, I don't know, he always goes like the and like just like compress, like takes it in, and then he's like right back to go, like ankle wise. But he looked like he took a shot. Like I'll say that overall, he got the wind knocked out of him because he got hit like right in the diaphragm. But I don't know, it was a little suspicious hit by Embiid. Not saying that Embiid's a dirty player, but sometimes like when you have those transition plays where you screw up and you get angry, Giannis does it all the time when he trucked Mike Dunleavy. But I don't know, was it a frustration hit? But that hit looked pretty interesting in my opinion.
Now people will, it's fine. The NBA just treats Giannis like a superhero. Just take 90 bullets and then all of a sudden there's not gonna call anything. Honestly, Giannis, to his own detriment, is too big because he I don't even know if that's even the worst hit he's ever suffered because Giannis has gotten nailed before and they won't. And it comes back to the fact that this is all revenue based. Okay, they get the national televised game. Like Joel Embiid, it's like if there was another player, maybe they would have gotten ejected. But Joel Embiid's a star in this game. They're gonna do anything they can
to make their
keep
money.
him in the game. Yes, exactly. So, a lot of people are, was it not a basketball play? No, but it just goes back to the fact that Giannis is too big. Joel Embiid's a star, and it's on ESPN. So they're gonna do anything they can to keep Joel Embiid in the game.
Ooh, that slow mo.
Was it called a flagrant one?
Yeah, they gave him the flagrant one. And guess what? He missed both his free throws. It was crazy. Crazy.
He did.
I knew it was going to happen too. I'm like, oh, that's probably the best thing that could have happened out of that.
I don't know. I remember watching that play. I didn't remember myself feeling like too outraged because I think I don't know. I think anytime you slow mo something, it makes it worse than what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Just
mean, it was a hard hit, but I don't know if it was. Um,
flagrant 2
yeah,
hit.
I don't know if it was flagrant 2 based. I don't know if I can go to that level.
I just
Um,
cannot imagine being hit like that from that big of a man. Even
no,
the biggest people can sometimes just not take those hits, and it's astonishing just to see like some of those things that they can do
yeah,
compared to me. That would have killed me.
yeah. All right. So,
Let's
Evan,
talk about after the game.
let's talk about after the game. So I'm going to tell the full story because there's
Go for it.
not many people know the full story. They just know about Giannis knocking over the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the full story that I read on The Athletic, written by Joe Varden. So after the game, as he typically does when he doesn't have a good performance in one area,
Mm-hmm.
Giannis what came back out to the Wells Fargo Center shooting free throws. Shooting free throws. He was working on it. He was like, all right, I didn't have a good free throw shooting performance. I'm going to work on it. Okay. Montrezl Harrell and another assistant coach come out. And first of all, as Giannis is shooting, as soon as Giannis shoots it, like Montrezl Harrell just takes the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Just takes the ball.
Yep, I
He,
was watching that video earlier.
he was like, get that. I'm going to say
Yeah.
what he said. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, get that shit out of here. This ain't Milwaukee. So Montrezl Harrell just takes the ball. Another assistant coach comes in between them and basically said, "Yes, you can't shoot at our you can't like shoot down here." So Montrezl Harrell takes the ball and goes to the other end of the floor to work on his game. Mind you, Montrezl Harrell only played in 5 minutes and scored 1 point. So what he had to work on, I don't know. Because he was taking jump shots, and I don't think of him as a jump shooter. So, and then as this is all transpiring, the Philly staff, okay, puts a ladder out in front because I guess they take the boards down or something. So Giannis then goes back to the locker room, grabs 2 basketballs,
Yep.
and multiple times he asked the Philly team employees to move the ladder so he can finish shooting his free throw.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, and that's where you saw Giannis knocking over a ladder. Now, should Giannis have knocked over the ladder? No,
No.
probably not. Okay, is that probably the worst moment in his career outside the Mike Dunleavy incident? Maybe,
Yeah.
because I think Bucks fans agree that if that's you can't just go knocking over a ladder. Like, it's dangerous. Someone could have been there, whatever. But at the same time, Montrezl Harrell started all this.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing, too. Thanasis came out to – because he saw all this transition. Because, yeah, Thanasis eventually kind of caught wind of it, came out.
Mm-hmm.
And Montrezl Harrell told him, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And Thanasis just walked away. So that's the full story. I think a lot of people just saw Giannis knocking over a ladder. And of course, all the NBA fans are on the moral high ground stage where it's like, oh my God, like Giannis is just disrespecting team. Shut up.
Yeah,
Your guy started it.
It's one of those things where it goes both ways. Like you said, Giannis probably should not have thrown the ladder, but I think a lot of people are like pushing the Montrezl Harrell aspect out. Like, they're kind of like sweeping it under the rug. It would have been different had he just been like, there's a polite way to talk to people if you didn't realize that now at this point in your life. But I think a lot of it is just there's an easier way that you could have like won over this. Hey, could I get a couple shots? Sure. It wasn't like when you were saying, I was just looking at the story, and Montrezl Harrell tweeted, hey, make sure you get the complete story. I asked the man, can he get off the court so I can work out? They had to change the court over. He ignored me, so hey, that's what you get. Respect is respect. Good night in all caps. And I was just kind of laughing as you were talking because some of the comments were like ripping on him. They were like posting his stats and everything where it's kind of corny of him to like tweet that, because now that you see the other side of it, it kind of makes him look even worse had that not been shown. But I would say they were both in the wrong, and it's one of those things where it happened, and it's not maybe something that you can like push away, but both were in the wrong. I think overall, Montrezl Harrell could have figured out a better way to talk to him, trying to like talk like he was LeBron James or like a superstar at that point. But I don't know. It was very odd to see Giannis like react like that, because obviously we saw the ladder video before we saw Montrezl Harrell. I didn't know about it until you mentioned that this morning, but it was both in the wrong, and I think it's like it happened, and like I think we can move on from it. Yeah, it was a very odd thing to kind of see Giannis do.
And why is the backup to the backup talking to Giannis as if he's a good player? What
I
he won,
was.
he won one. He won one Sixth Man of the Year in 2020.
Yep.
That was it. He's been on 4 teams in 5 years. Okay, that is the definition of a scrub. It's fine if he's in the NBA. There's a lot of players in the NBA, but he averages 12 minutes a game.
So yeah, someone said had one good year. Now you're talking like you're a starter, and
like honestly, you got it. He basically just ran. Like honestly, he had 5 minutes, 1 point. And honestly, and the other question that's not being brought up: how come he didn't just go to the other end of the court? If he saw Giannis, like on that side of the court, why didn't he just go to the end like he did before? Like, what issue is he trying to start? And what about that moron assistant coach who's telling Giannis, "Hey, you can't shoot down here"? Okay, is Giannis the first person to go to another opposing team?
Exactly. Everyone does that.
Practice? No. And actually, here's another thing. So I'll bring his name up because huge on Bucks Twitter. Nathan Marzian got a text from a former Fiserv employee who said that if opposing players want to work on their game after the game, they're supposed to wait. Okay? They're supposed to wait. Everybody's acting like Giannis owns the court. We understand Giannis doesn't own the court. Okay? But as long as an opposing player, more specifically a star player, wants to work on his game, who does that hurt? I understand they have a routine.
Yep. Okay? Maybe give him 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Like you act like Giannis would have been there for like 2 hours. No. Like I understand people want to get home, but you know the line of work and you chose when you chose to work in like an NBA arena. Like, yeah, hours are gonna be long. So I really don't know. And again, like a ladder. that's the worst video. That's gonna be a meme forever. Like anytime Giannis if Giannis gets ejected, and they're just gonna bring up like the ladder throwing.
That was what, like a 10-foot ladder at least.
He just threw it.
He threw it like a toothpick.
It
was a heart. It was funny. Sure, it sucked because now it kind of like makes him look bad, but I don't know. It was an odd situation. I thought it was that the ladder throw just made him look like a huge human being. But yeah, I'm reading Twitter right now, and people on Twitter are absolutely going off on Montrezl Harrell with his comments and just like talking about him and like how like he's been so big this year. But yeah, it was an interesting thing overall.
And there's another component to this. As the Bucks players were changing, there was somebody who was switching the lights on and off.
Sounds like we're in middle school again.
Like, what are we doing here? Evan?
Yeah.
I'm just joking with you. It was Giannis' 2-year-old son, Liam.
Okay. That's funny. That's funny. I like that. The lights will
I was about to get you because I figured you hadn't read that part of the story. But, yeah, apparently in The Athletic later on in the story, apparently Liam was switching the lights on and off.
Just to add to the situation going on.
If it was a Sixers player, like Sixers player, I don't think would do that. They'd probably just pull the fire alarm or something, check him out, and Liam was switching the
Yep,
lights
just surprised you could get that. Interesting. That's funny. That's funny.
on. Pretty sure he's tall to like.
He's probably 6'2" already.
Yeah. All right. What a weird night after. All right, let's get to a couple more items here. So they said Pat Connaughton is close. So here's the thing: they said he's close. He hasn't had a setback in his injury or his recovery, but they're just holding him out because in the game against, I believe, Philadelphia or Cleveland, that he was questionable.
I think it was the Cavs game.
Cavs
It was
game, yeah.
weird because they said he was like good to go, but they're gonna sit him just in case. Like I don't know. That like didn't like really make sense to me. Like, wouldn't you just play him then if he's good to go? Like if you say like just in case, like that could go for the rest of the season. Oh, he's ready, but just to make sure.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, like calf injuries are tricky.
Mhm.
Like that's what it is for me. It's like you don't exactly know when you're exactly healthy from a calf injury.
Yep. But you're also not going to know if you never play. So maybe like do like what they did for Drew. Don't play him in the first. Maybe don't play him 23 minutes because an ankle and a calf is different. But get him in a little later into the game just to like test it out. Like dip his feet in the water. But it's hard to know if he doesn't play.
Yeah, it is. So hopefully Pat comes back sometime next week because they said he was close. They're just being extra cautious.
And I believe Chris
was about to bring that up.
Yep, I heard his dad died, and he's been out also. So I think it's part injury and then part family stuff too. I don't know if that's like the for sure thing, but I think that's what my dad heard is that, yeah, family member died. I think his dad. So I don't know if that's 100% true. Can't quote me on it, but I think there's something outside of the injury that also pushed him back a little bit, where he could be playing. I don't know if that's true or not, but some people were mentioning that there's something outside of his injury that led to him also being out.
I have not read that about Chris Middleton's dad. You know, I don't know. I think because like I said, we thought Chris Middleton would be back by now because we said it for a few weeks, and it's been almost a couple of months. So we don't know, and we don't know because the last update we got was from Sham Charania, who said that he would miss like the first few weeks.
Yeah, and it's annoying because they aren't like updating us. Usually some teams do that, whether that's for football or for baseball. Like they're on track, like they're ready to go. They should be ready by then. But I haven't heard anything. No one has.
I haven't either. I've Googled it. It's like last update we got, I think it was from October.
Yeah. Like when it was first going on, like he'll miss the first few games. And here we are almost at the end of November.
Yeah. So who knows when Chris Middleton's going to come back. Obviously, Joe Ingles slated to come back in maybe late December, January. From what
that would have been around the year that he tore it because I think it was last November, December. Usually takes around a year.
Yeah. So
the injury.
Hopefully he comes back. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get either Pat Connaughton or Chris Middleton coming back in the next week or two. So, Evan, you got anything else?
No, I'm hoping. I think we're going to see Pat the next game or two. I prediction he'll play one of those two games. Obviously, not like how he would typically play in a game, minute wise, but I think we'll see him at least. That's my hope.
I hope so too. No, I hope so too. Okay, let's see. So the Bucks got another Monday, Wednesday, Friday matinee, I believe. Yep. So they play Portland at home and then Chicago at home. And 3 home games. Portland, Chicago, Cleveland. And then a little Sunday matinee, Dallas.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens with that. So
I think I'm going to go to the Cavs game. I think my friend and I are figuring out a way to go there, so that'll be a good one to see. But hopefully Portland has been doing pretty well, so hopefully they can kind of hold some of these guys off. Try to go at least 2-2 because it was hard going 9-0, and now they're 10-4, and not in first place anymore. So hopefully once everything comes together that they can kind of make that push again, but try to win more than one this week.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you next week.